And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of A Bookish Moment. I am your host today, Sarah Burr, author of the brand new Cozy Mystery series, The Book Blogger Mysteries. Over My Dead blog is out this week. It's very exciting. We're here to be bookish this afternoon with the wonderful Judy L. Murray, who, for folks who have been with us for quite some time now, Judy was actually our very first guest on what would become the Bookish Hour. So it's great to kind of have this full circle moment, Judy, where you joined us first talking about your first Chesapeake Bay mystery, Murder in the Master. And now we're talking about book 3, which is really exciting. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I have to admit, I forgot that I was the very first one. Yeah, you contacted me, said, "Are you brave enough to be our guinea pig?" And I said, "Why not?"
Your email started it all. So it's really like your willingness to be a part of our conversations was really kind of what brought us together. So we have a lot to thank you for. So
wow, don't be silly. I think it's amazing that you and JC have had it's been such a huge success, your YouTube program, and it just really it's a fun thing to catch every week. And do you do it once a week, twice a week?
We are actually, so at this point, because of our scheduling, we were doing it once every other week for the Bookish Hour, but because we had so many people reaching out, we launched the Bookish Moment so that we could get folks whenever we could get them, because we always want to talk about books.
Sure, absolutely.
So it really works out to our benefit. And for our viewers who may not be familiar with you and your award-winning works, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your series?
The Chesapeake Bay Murder Mysteries, or Chesapeake Bay Mysteries, is a series that launched in September 2021, and with Level Best Books. And it is a series all about our heroine, our protagonist, who lives in a small town on the Chesapeake. She's a real estate agent. She's in her mid-50s, and she gets involved in Murder in the Master, literally in the first paragraph of the first page. So, and off she goes. What's probably very unique about her is that she is a woman she's very smart. She's pretty sassy. She doesn't take any prisoners when it comes to conversation. And she is also an absolute mystery fanatic. So her bookshelves, when you learn about her life, are full of every, famous sleuth that you can think of. But she has some favorites. And when she decides she's facing this first crime, a builder dead in a master bedroom of a model home, she decides that she needs some help. And so she thinks about what would be her way of getting consultants on the job for her. And she decides that, much like Agatha Christie, who had a detection club back in England in the 30s with some other very famous writers, she decides she's going to build her own detection club. And that club is a group of famous sleuths, all women, and of real diverse backgrounds and ages and that kind of thing. So it goes from Nancy Drew, who's very much part of the storyline, along with Jessica Fletcher and Nora Charles from the 30s. And then you have Agatha Raisin. And then you have Jane Marple, who, of course, is close to 80. And everybody thinks she's this, fluffy little lady in the corner. And we all know she is as smart as a tack. So when you put those women together to help Helen, my protagonist, decide who is the bad guy. You just have a great team, and readers seem to really, really embrace it. So my first book is Murder in the Master. The second one was Killer in the Kitchen. I'm not sure if you can see some of my display up here behind here, but the second one is Killer in the Kitchen, about a celebrity chef who dies right on set during a home shopping network program.
Love it.
And then the third one, which is Peril in the Pool House, that has really only been out about 2 weeks. And that's about a client who she sells an old Victorian they convert into a B&B. And at the grand opening, there is, guess what? Peril in the Pool House. So, and it's really doing very well. I'm happy that it kind of blows my mind a bit, I have to tell you, because Murder in the Master and Killer in the Kitchen have together won a Silver Falchion, been nominated for a Silver Falchion. They've won a Gold IPPY Independent Publisher Award. They've won a Silver Independent Publisher Award. They won first place by Pencraft for Best Mystery Sleuth, and each book. So altogether, they've won about 7 or 8 awards, which honestly, I don't know how that happened, but I'm happy to take it. So, but it does, readers seem to be really embracing it. I think what's interesting too is not only do I have a fan club of people in the Chesapeake area, which is where I happen to live, but along with that, I have people all over the country that say, I am so enjoying discovering that part of the country. So it's been fun for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, all of your accolades are extremely well deserved. Your mysteries are so precisely plotted, and really the information that we're getting, kind of the peek behind the curtain for Helen's world of real estate, I think is something that people are always like really excited to learn about, because at some point, everybody has an experience with a realtor at some point, whether it's renting a home or buying a home. So I think that there's that kind of seeing things behind the scenes that's really exciting. And we've got some folks in chat, Judy, that are they're sending many congratulations on your awards. And one of our viewers, Mizan, says that she lives in Central Maryland, and so not far from the Bay Area. So your series is close to home for her. So being able to kind of share that with readers is really cool. I was actually born on the Chesapeake Bay, so
there you go. Yeah, and I'm really not
little
from.
tie too.
Yeah, I mean, we were sailors our life, but we really just discovered the Chesapeake the last 15 years or so. We was really from Philadelphia suburbs, and so shout out to that woman that is from Maryland. What's interesting, I guess, about the Chesapeake Bay is it literally touches, I think it's 6 states. I mean, it is enormous. When you're on the Chesapeake, it feels like the ocean. It's pretty amazing. But what you mentioned about real estate is something that's probably close to my heart, because I was involved in real estate as a salesperson, a sales manager, and on up the corporate ladder for 35 years, all my career and my working life. And I really, the longer I was in that business, I just thought to myself how wonderful it would be if I could put together a series that gave people, like you just said, sort of the behind the scenes, what it's really like to be in this business, and what you deal with and that kind of thing. And also sort of dispel some myths and come out with some truths, and it makes for a great story. So a lot of the plotting and that kind of thing in my storylines they're based on fact. And in fact, for example, in Killer in the Kitchen, there's a scene in which Helen is in a dirt basement of a house in a remote location. And frankly, that was me, and it was one of those scenes where when I was showing that property, I'm in this basement with a strange man, and I'm looking at a fuse box with him peering over my shoulder, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? So it is. So there were a lot of things that they're very, very true, and I build them in, and I think it makes for just a really interesting storyline. I'll also say it helps me in that my stories are very plot driven, in that, I mean, my characters people love my characters. They can become very attached to them, but at the same time, they're real whodunits. read carefully because you want to figure out who this is. And I'm going to give you the clues, but I'm not going to make it easy on you. And it makes for fun.
I think that mystery readers really like that challenge.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one thing that you were telling your story about being in a basement with a stranger, our viewers know how much I love podcasts. I listen to true crime podcasts all the time. And the number of times that these stories have featured a realtor that came into contact with an unsavory character is just astounding. And it's considered to be one of the most dangerous professions in the United States, just because of these like daily interactions that people are having. So
it absolutely is.
So being able to capture that, I think, in a mystery series, I think is very smart.
Yeah, well, thank you. Actually, it's funny, when in Killer in the Kitchen, I kind of make a pretty strong subplot, is the fact that along with the people that Helen is involved as far as solving a particular crime on this shopping network scene, at the same time, she gets involved with the fact that there's somebody on the loose who is attacking real estate agents. And I mentioned in the book, I think it's 448 real estate agents who died in 2020 or 2021. I have to look again at my notes. And readers are like shocked, they can't believe, because you really, it is a career profession where agents put themselves in very difficult situations, and it's hard to figure out what the right thing is to do to protect themselves. So I think in that respect, that book actually enlightened some people, some readers. So that was good. But I'll also say to you too, if you don't mind my mentioning, I think part of the fun as far as plotting and coming up with the twists and turns of these storylines is trying to keep the reader, turning the page, and at the same time, not giving it away. So, for example, I'll mention Killer in the Kitchen again, but in Killer in the Kitchen, there's in the very beginning of the story, it's not a spoiler, the very beginning of the story, the chef is killed right on set doing a live show. And how I could work on, and it was actually fun to write a scene where the reader is watching the filming of the show. So they're seeing everything that happens during that murder, and yet I don't give away how it happened. So I try to do that with all the stories, have things that they're there. You just have to look close. So, that's just sort of part of it. And the other part of it is, I think, I have reviewers that come forward and they talk about there's a little bit of romance. There is some humor because Helen has her own quirks. She eats Twizzlers as her favorite food, and she drinks wine, and she hates to cook, and she's got her own idiosyncrasies, I guess is what I'm going to say. But it hopefully makes readers feel like they become attached to her. They can relate. I think they can relate, and that's really important. I don't know about you, but when I read a character, I want to be able to relate to them. So my women do not run through the woods in high heels. That's not going to happen. Okay. That's ridiculous. Not doing it.
I wholeheartedly agree about the creating characters that you can relate to. And that's actually how I got started writing cozy mysteries myself, because I wanted to write characters that I felt that, I can visualize using social media to find the killer or to track down suspects. And so being able to pull those parts of ourselves into our stories, I think is really like creates the heart of what we write. And one thing that I really love what you do, Judy, when you are, you're at the beginning of all of your books, you have the rules of real estate, and rule number 1,
yes, I do.
Rule number 2, and so rule number 3 for Peril in the Pool House is about having to sell a haunted house, and like people don't want to buy haunted houses. Exactly. I personally think I would love to buy a haunted house. But I say that, and then having watched all of the horror movies that I've watched, I'm always like, this is awful. Like, who would do this? So can you tell us a little bit about the setting for Peril in the Pool House, about this haunting that you've got going on? Because I love a little sparkle of paranormal with my mystery.
Right. And I have to tell you, I mean, I know there are many phenomenal paranormal writers. That's not me. It's just not where my interest is. But I have come across over the years in my real estate career situations where it is a little, whoa, anyway. And I just thought about this storyline about this old B&B being, or I should say Victorian fixed up to become a B&B. And there was a particular house that I dealt with many years ago where they always called it the Scissors House. And the Scissors House was supposed to be, there was this rumor that there was a young woman, around 16, 17, who would walk around this house as a ghost with a pair of scissors in her hand. Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm not saying it's true, but that was the rumor. But I sort of stuck in my mind, and I thought, that's an interesting little twist. So what happened with Peril in the Pool House, the storyline is really about a young couple who fixed up this house and then have this grand opening. And he's about to he's announcing his run for state senate in the state of Maryland. And anyway, and he, as a result, has this announcement, et cetera, et cetera. But 60 years before, there was a mysterious disappearance of his grandfather's partner, and they were Marine pilots on the Chesapeake Bay. And some people don't know that a lot of locations throughout the world, there are pilots that come over to a huge cargo ship, climb aboard it, and steer it through the channels, because the channels can be very, very low. So in the Chesapeake, a lot of the channels are 40 to 50 feet deep, and the cargo ships are 40 to 50 feet deep. So it's like threading a needle. Mm-hmm. So we get into the storyline of what happened 60 years ago with this missing Marine pilot, and that was associated with his grandfather. So the whole pieces sort of fit together. So we end up having two storylines and two murders going along with each other throughout the story. And of course, in the end, they have to tie together somehow, right? So it's very Chesapeake as far as you learning some interesting things about the business, or the Chesapeake itself, and its history. But at the same time, there's a little bit of is that ghost really there, and what happened to that pilot many years ago? So I would call it a cold case. Mm-hmm. It's probably more of a cold case than a paranormal, but it's a cold case that ends up having to be solved.
Well, you've definitely hooked some of our viewers. Mizan says that this sounds like such a great book, and love a good haunted house, having like that story connected with it. And to your point, Judy, about the weaving these two storylines together. Was that challenging for you? Because I think back to one of the books that I wrote where I had kind of like a something happening in the 1800s that is kind of woven through time and affecting current events of the day. And it was hard to balance the happenings of the 1800s with what was going on in present day, and making sure that things aligned up, and like basically creating this history that I didn't really have in place beforehand. So I'm curious what your experience was like trying to weave those two stories together.
That's a very good point, and it is a challenge, and I won't kid you, I spent a lot of sleepless nights and walking the floor days trying to figure out how to pull that all together. And but you do your research, things like that. There's actually and that's probably where our sleuths come involved. Helen, my protagonist, she has a daughter and a son, and they are twins. And her daughter's name is Lizzie. And Lizzie sometimes gets involved in helping her out. And Lizzie agrees to meet her up in the attic and go through some old files of this B&B while the house is empty and everybody is away. And they're up there. And of course, it is spooky and it's scary. And it is very Nancy Drew, and she turns to her mother and says, are you sure this isn't Secret in the Old Attic? I mean, because that was the flavor of that whole scene, which is an awful lot of fun, right? It's an awful lot of fun. And then on the flip side, you have current day type of connections, like Helen being able to take what they call a float plane, not a seaplane, but a float plane, out to a lighthouse that's centered in the middle of the bay, and to deliver an agreement of sale to an old man who owns the lighthouse. And the only access is to come by float plane. And that whole scene, which is quite lengthy, of her getting to that point is really, really fun. Oh yeah, like you do, you have to do a lot of research. You're trying to make it authentic, but not heavy. I want people to learn things and hear about things that they might not have known about before, but at the same time, they have to be able to laugh. They have to be able to enjoy themselves. And, at the end of the day, everyone knows that, you want the bad guy to get caught, right? And you have to wrap it up at the end so that there's satisfaction there. I like a story where at the end, good people win. That's what I like to see happen.
I wholeheartedly agree. And that's what I love so much about, the amateur sleuth genre, where, you can pretty much be guaranteed that that's what's going to happen. And having that guarantee is really nice and comforting, because you can be along for this wild, bumpy ride, but know that okay, we know that this is going to, turn out all right in the end, because
absolutely.
We need that in our lives these days.
We really do. And I'll say this, and I know we're running out of time now, but because Helen is a real estate agent, that actually gives me a lot of latitude, because there are times when stories, it's a bit of a stretch as far as this person's day work, and how it gets them involved in certain crimes. This actually makes it easy, because real estate agents really are personally involved and know things about people that the rest of the world doesn't get introduced to. So it makes that, it helps. I don't feel as if I have my readers have to suspend their disbelief very long. They can believe it. It is believable. So.
Yes. And I think one thing that I did want to bring up with you about just your writing journey, Murder in the Master was your debut novel.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how it felt when, hearing Helen portrayed on audiobook for the first time, hearing her come to life. How did, what was that experience like for you as the writer, to hear your characters just appear?
Well, I was very fortunate. Blackstone Publishing Audio, which is a terrific, well-known publisher for audio. They wanted all 3 books, and before they were even finished, which was great. But you do hold your breath. And I can't tell you how many people who might know me would say, "Oh, did you do the audio? Did you narrate it?" And I said, "No, you have to know your skill levels." Okay. No. It's to have professional actresses that actually represent Helen and all the cast, it's just, I was really very fortunate. But you're right. You hold your breath when you first hear it, and you think, "Oh, I really hope that this fits what I imagined." Right. And unfortunately, Sarah Malo Christensen is the narrator, and she does a phenomenal job. So I'm very, very lucky in that regard. But it's a different experience, So, but you have to know your limitations, and doing my own audio would not be it. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've been asked the same thing. It's "Oh, Sarah, you're so comfortable talking. Why don't you do your own audiobooks?" And it's if I'm reading something, I am stumbling over every other word. And it's it would take a poor editor decades to edit something that I would do. So I am continually amazed by the performances. I love listening to audiobooks, and hearing somebody else's perspective, and sometimes a line that I didn't realize like needed to be delivered a different way. Like
Mhm.
hearing it, it's like, oh wow, like I never thought
Mhm.
about approaching it that way, but this way works.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
really cool from the
Mhm.
creator's perspective
It
to
really, yeah.
experience that.
I absolutely, and it blows my mind that she manages. Joe McAllister is the lead detective in all these crimes, and of course he becomes interested in Helen. And I have people who they read the first book and they'll say, I run into in a book signing or whatever, and they'll say, "What happens to Helen and Joe?" And of course I say, "Well, you'll have to read
You
book
have to
2 and
read.
3." But the way she, as the narrator, pulls off these multiple personalities it's really a talent.
Yes.
It really is. Yeah.
I absolutely, it's so fun to see different and to, especially with having a female narrator, having them embody these men in our series and hearing how they're portrayed. I think it's just it's like truly a gift to be able to do that without just being like, oh yes, just they like give such
it's
character
hard.
to it. It's
I know.
so
I
cool.
know.
And before we started the show, Judy, I told you that our time was going to fly by, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, we have so much more that we could talk about.
Oh my gosh, so sorry.
But as we kind of come to the end of our bookish moment, do you mind telling folks, any events in like local events that you have going on, that if people who are in your area can find you at, any conferences, any what's on the books for you?
Yes. Well, first of all, if any of you want to go to www.judylmurraymysteries.com, that's my website. You'll read all about my Chesapeake, where I live, my boat, my house, all kinds of things. And of course, obviously all about the series and different reviews from all these different people who have given me some phenomenal reviews, which is great. And on that is also a post where you can say, one of the tabs where you can find my events. And I list where I'm going, where I've been, where I'm going. For example, goodness, I've probably done 9 events in the last 4 to 5 weeks. I've been really busy. And I'm at Barnes & Noble. I was in Barnes & Noble last Saturday in Center City, Philadelphia. And in another week, I'll be up in Exton, Pennsylvania. Might be at a big library, a group signing, that kind of thing the same day. So I do a lot of signings. I will throw this out to whoever's listening, and that is book club talks are really fun. I love them. I've made a lot of very good friends from it. And frankly, depending on where it is, I'm willing to travel to it and the size of the group. The other part of it, though, is I've done some virtual book talks, and that's really fun. So someone, let's say, who's out in Minnesota that would like to do a book talk with their book club and have one of my books featured as that book of the month, and they want to invite me to be there, we set up a screen and everyone sort of, they have a one laptop they're all looking at, and we chat back and forth for half hour, 45 minutes, whatever they like. And we laugh a lot, and we just have a great time. We share a little wine virtually, and so that's a great thing to do. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm at Judy L. Murray Author, which is my larger Facebook page, and Instagram and LinkedIn and all those different places. If I have one request, I'd say if you've read my books, however you've come across them, whether it's at a signing or whatever, please post a review. And a lot of the sites like Amazon, I'm not sure about Barnes & Noble, but they will allow you to post a review even if you didn't purchase it through them. So, and of course, what is there? Book reads and all the different avenues. So if you're so inclined and you love the book, I hope you do end up going ahead and posting a review, because for newer people like myself, just trying to build their name and their reputation, and for people to pass my name on, reviews help. There's no question about it. So, and I'll also say to you, if you happen to buy a book of mine online in some way and you didn't have it personally signed, but you'd like to have it signed, just drop me an email through my contact on my website and tell me you'd like to have it. Give me your home address, and I'll be happy to send you a bookmark and a signed book plate that goes inside your book that I sign. So if you like to have that, you're welcome to just contact me, let me know.
Well, I think you have hooked many people with our chat today, Judy, talking about what is in store for Helen and Peril in the pool house.
Wow. And number 4, I'm right now I'm thinking it's going to be in a vineyard. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
I love the locations, and I can't wait to hear what what a title would be for that. Because I think that's one of the really fun things about your series is like, okay, a lot about your title tells you, okay, this is what's going on. So I think it's a great way to hook readers.
That is such a funny thing that you mentioned, and I didn't think to mention it. And that is something's popping up in front of my screen. I cannot tell you how many readers, whether it's through Facebook or through an email or something, they'll send me this little list of what about, corpse in the cockpit, flailed in the foyer, whatever. It's actually very funny. Some of them are a little gruesome, a little too gruesome for me. I think I've heard bludgeoned in the basement. I'm like, ooh, So anyway, because I'm not a violent scene person. So anyway, but it is actually a lot of fun. We have a lot of jokes about it back and forth about the titles. Yeah,
that's wonderful, and it just goes to show kind of the community that you're building. So you had mentioned that the power of reviews for people who are just starting out like yourself. I think you're doing just an amazing job getting yourself out there, connecting with readers, and I thank you for spending your afternoon with me here at a Bookish Moment today. So
it's my honor, believe me, because I don't think there's anything more fun for an author. And if they don't enjoy it, I think that's a shame, because I think that being able to chat with readers about what they enjoy and what they like about our stories is that's the most rewarding part. It really is.
I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah.
That's the reward.
A big thank you to our folks who chimed in chat. We have Farmhouse Reader, Mizan, Mark. Thank you guys for saying hello and for being with us here this afternoon. We really appreciate you stopping by, Judy, to chat, and we hope that you will be back when you have another mystery for us.
Okay. No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah, I know. Pressure in the, I don't know. So we'll see what
we'll definitely pencil you in. So, again, everyone,
thank you so much. It's been my honor and a pleasure to meet everybody, and I appreciate everybody attending, and I hope to hear from you.
Wonderful. And for folks, we will be back with a new episode of the Bookish Hour next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure that you subscribe and like for our channel to get notifications. And until we see you next time, stay bookish. Bye, everybody. Have a great afternoon.